Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, in the weeks after the death of Jimmy Savile, the nation was shocked by the horrific revelations of sexual abuse that started to emerge. As momentum built, thousands of people came forward to report abuse that they had experienced in the past, many for the first time. With the scale of the abuse apparent, questions were then asked about why none of this had been exposed during his lifetime. Tonight, a BBC One documentary, Abused: The Untold Story, features people speaking out about their abuse for the first time and the impact that coming forward has had on them and their families.
It wasn't a secret, it was shame. Wasn't it?
What?
You were ashamed of it.
It went through my mind, should I tell my wife?
Do you know what happened to Kevin?
Not completely, no. You think, you know, you got the marriage, you got the friendship, you got the closeness, you've got it all, and then all of a sudden there's this great big wall that you didn't know about.
For decades, there was a secret at the heart of British life.
I don't think I told you for years, you know.
You didn't, and even then you still haven't told me fully. I don't want to have that in my head.
It lay hidden in our biggest institutions. And within ordinary families.
She told me not to tell anybody.
I wiped it from my memory entirely.
For how long?
46 years.
But when the truth about one man was revealed, the nation was forced to examine its past, and the secret was out.
I'm not ashamed. This is my face. This is what I look like. I have done nothing wrong.
These are the people who broke their silence and changed a nation.
The documentary looks at the watershed moment created by Savile's death and why so many people felt able at that point to break their silence. After Savile, the Crown Prosecution Service accepted mistakes had been made and it was forced to change the way it dealt with cases of sexual abuse. Tonight's documentary also follows the story of Katie, who says she was sexually abused when she was 9. Now an adult, she has pressed charges and had to go to court to be cross-examined by the defence. This is how she reacted.
Nearly 5 years since first going to the police, Katie is going to be cross-examined by the defence, who'll challenge her version of events.
I don't think anybody would relish or enjoy somebody question their reliability. They're going to try and say that the witness is telling lies.
Right, I've got to go, bye.
Bye-bye. Good luck, darling, good luck. We all love you.
I'll be in the gallery. Okay.
We love you. See you shortly. See you very soon, babe.
Oh my God.
I love you.
Breathe.
It's the fear that they've had all their lives that nobody will believe them. It's playing to their biggest fears.
You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine.
Bye, darling. Is it left here, Kate? Kate, is it left here?
Yes, sorry. Yeah. You were amazing. Yeah.
She said that you grew 10 feet.
You did. You grew 10 feet.
What do victims say it's like?
More often than not, they'll say, I would never do that again. Yeah.
The jury will deliver its verdict tomorrow.
Well, we can speak now to Sam Brown and her husband Jim, who appear in tonight's documentary. Sam was abused by Jimmy Savile and reported him to the police after his death. Some of the details of this conversation will be upsetting, and you may not want young children to hear everything that we talk about. Thank you both so much for coming in. You were abused by Jimmy Savile for several years.
Yeah.
Didn't talk about it for a very long time. Take us back to how you first met him and what happened.
Well, I used to go to a chapel in Stoke Mandeville Hospital for evening mass on Saturday nights, and a couple of times a month he would be at chapel. I used to go into the presbytery room and collect the collection plate. So whilst I was in there collecting my plate and waiting for the right time in the service, then he used to do what he wanted to do with me while the door was open, while you could see the congregation. And that would last for as many minutes as until the service was at the right time. Then I would go, pass the plate round, come back in, put the plate down, and then go and sit back in church.
So you were only actually alone with him for a matter of minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes each time.
And you and he were obviously very aware of other people out there. How did he behave through that?
Well, he was always very confident. I used to collect the plate, turn around and stand and look at everybody while Mass was going on. And in that time I used to look at everybody. I just used to shut down any of my feelings or anything that was going on, and why he would do what he wanted to do.
Did he speak to you?
No, he never really spoke to me. He used to, he'd put his hands around my face and sometimes his fingers into my mouth, which obviously would silence me, and make me realise that I had no choice in what was happening, and all that time he would do whatever he wanted to do with me, with his hands.
Do you feel that he sought you out?
Yeah, it was clear to him. Because I'd already had a lot of abuse, I think that we all have a certain stance we take. Our body language is quite blatant to somebody who is an abuser. So we're kind of easy to pick, you know, because we're eyes down, head down, closed, you know, show no emotion on our faces. I think it's quite apparent for those who are good to see us.
You'd been abused by your grandfather from
That's
the age
right,
of 2, hadn't
yeah.
you?
By the time Savile had got to me, I was really well primed for that. So I was an easy pick, really, for Savile.
It's a picture of you there as a child. When you look
where?
at the
Sorry.
picture, well,
Where?
we can just see it if you just look behind you.
Oh,
When
right.
you look at yourself as a child,
Yeah.
what do you think? Did you have a childhood?
No, I didn't have a childhood. I spent my childhood hiding, scared of everything. I used to hide under cupboards, under tables. I couldn't have an education because I was too afraid of everything, life. I missed out on the whole childhood. I missed out on the whole life because I felt nothing. Everybody else remembers stuff about their childhood. I remember nothing other than pain and sadness and loneliness.
And you couldn't put a voice to it?
I didn't have a voice. When you as a person are stripped and taken, you've got no voice. I was taught not to have a voice. I was taught not to show my emotions. I was taught not to trust anybody. I mean, you need to... My granddad was a policeman. So who did I go to? My granddad was my mum's dad. Could I go to my mum and tell my mum that her dad was hurting me? Would she go to the police? My granddad was a policeman. My teachers at school hurt me. When when you
say they hurt you?
Yeah, not
in
sexually, but they would hit my head against the wall when I couldn't remember tables and things like this. So I suppose for an adult to deal with a child who has nothing, no emotions, no reactions, must be kind of hard for them. And so nobody understands you because you're a nothing person. I was a nothing child. My mum always said I was a good child. I was a good, quiet child. I was a good, quiet child because I'd frozen.
You had a child when you were still a child.
Yeah.
You were 15.
Yeah.
You fell pregnant.
And she saved my life. I was in hospital with an overdose at 15. And that's how I found out I was pregnant with my eldest, Jem. And it saved my life because I know I would not have been here. I used to, from 12, I tried to kill myself, time and time and time again. Tried to put myself in situations that were so dangerous just so I didn't have to get up and carry on. I didn't want life. But at 15, when I found out I was pregnant, I wanted life.
So that was the moment things changed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You didn't expect to ever love a man, but then
No,
Jim came into your life.
Yeah. And it was funny because I didn't have them feelings for any man ever, to be honest. But Jim was so kind. He worked for my mum and dad, and he built a relationship with Gemma, which I'd never, because Gemma was mine. She was nobody's. She was just mine. But I watched him with her, and Jem was probably 3, 5.
So gradually, obviously, the two of you created a new life, but inside you, your past was still there.
Yeah.
But you were coping.
Yeah.
Jimmy Savile
I had
then...
to cope, yeah, because I had a family, I had other people to look after. It's easy to look after other people, not to look after yourself.
So what happened when Jimmy Savile died and suddenly
it was everywhere? I was in the gym one day because I got really heavy, covering myself with fat so that nobody could say you look attractive or you look nice. My son helped me with that. I was in the gym one day and one of the PTs was an older guy, very white hair and a beard and stuff, and he came and put his arm on my shoulder. I was on a machine and I couldn't move. I instantly couldn't move. I couldn't think. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I physically could not move off of a treadmill. And one of the guys working come and helped me off and sat down, and I thought, because his picture was everywhere, it was in the paper, everyone was talking about it, I was walking past people in the street saying, oh, these are just money diggers, you know, they're just making it up. It was so, there was no, for me, being able to lock things away was the way I coped. Being able to put it in a box and put it in a place was the way I could cope, but I had no option because this image was everywhere and I couldn't cope no more, and it stopped me living. So I left the gym and I went to the police station and I spoke to the police about him and about my grandfather because I was being crippled.
And when did you first speak to Jim?
Well, I can't remember really. Apparently I mentioned years ago something.
Yeah. To be quite honest, we've never ever had a conversation about Sam's abuse at all. It's something that in the back of my head that I know's happened, and we just sort of tried to deal with it as a couple. You know what I mean? There's no, I don't really want to know the ins and outs. I can imagine the ins and outs, but I don't really want to be told the ins and outs. I don't think Sam personally wants to tell me the ins and outs either. So, but we just try to get, well, we go through day to day now as best we can through it.
Was it hard for you, realising you obviously knew that Sam had been through difficult times? Was it hard for you to realise quite what she had been through?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think for a normal person anyway, it is. I don't mean that disrespectfully, do you know what I mean? But for the person who hasn't been abused, it is. They can't imagine. You can't imagine. You don't. I don't think you perceive it, the act of what it is, and I think that's where most of us struggle.